I'm Haley Taylor, and you're listening to the Rough Draft Diaries. This week on the Rough Draft Diaries, we're revisiting an episode from February of 2019. An episode that I think still holds the record for the most people we've ever had in the studio at the same time. We're meeting up with Midstory again, except this time we have only half the crew. We've got Logan and Ruth, who are recording on their end for this virtual studio interview.
I mean, a year and a half ago doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it also feels like forever ago. We had just recently gotten home, so we had come back to Toledo from our various careers and education out on the East Coast. We're making our home here again, and we had this dream, which was called Midstory, and it's just kind of incredible how much that has morphed and changed and grown. And I think how much work has been done in the last year and a half, that I think at the core our mission and values are the same, but it's just grown in ways that probably I don't think we could have imagined back then.
Midstory values storytelling. Their mission is to create a media think hub, a place where stories are created locally for people within their own community, curating a voice for post-industrial cities like Toledo, Ohio. When we had met last year, Midstory had already created video series about the water crisis and infographics about city infrastructure, and they'd also tackled the idea of brain drain within the city.
I think people were talking a lot about talent retention. Why are we not able to keep our young people here? And I think last year we really grappled with that issue when we brought in our first cohort of interns last summer, and then subsequently, I would say, kind of made a splash with a city in transit gala at the downtown train station, where we really wanted to reimagine what Toledo could be like, as a group of young people who wanted to make our home here.
So Midstory hit the ground running within their first year here in Toledo and planned to double the work into their second year into 2020. But as you can imagine, a pandemic and quarantine kind of got in the way.
We were actually, I think, one of the earlier ones to take a huge step back for a moment and to recognize that this could be something that's really going to impact us and our community and the entire United States. So we actually went virtual for our working platforms pretty early on, long before the stay-at-home order. Right. And reconsidered all of our programming. We kind of took a couple weeks and just hunkered down and thought about what it is that we wanted to do and to have plans for everything.
And that, I think, from our perspective, that has been a blessing in disguise. That has truly been a way for us to really kind of narrow our goals a little bit on what we want to accomplish, and also the challenges of not being able to conduct a lot of the activities in person. Actually, I think deepened some of the work that we're able to do from a storytelling perspective.
And actually, we've seen increased engagement with the community. We've seen more need than ever. We were able to double our summer program this year, having students from all over the nation, 18 students this year. We have 7 high school students. We were able to actually more than double the engagement in all of our media, because we're seeing that maybe those intangible needs that are less obvious during normal times become more obvious in times of crisis like this. So we've been really incredibly grateful to have been a part in serving that need.
So Midstory moves forward, tackling news stories and challenges in 2020. They started a weekly newsletter called the Midweekly. And as they mentioned, they have a handful of interns who are learning remotely about the stories involving the Midwest. They're also addressing local and national issues on their video series called The Midpoint, available on their Facebook page. So it's a new year filled with new content for Midstory. But the same drive, the same passion is still there from the year before.
For us, this entire process with the pandemic, and even from the very beginning, starting Midstory, it's been a challenge. But I think that challenge is ultimately what has pushed us to grow, pushed us to be able to, serve the community in a real way. Surprisingly, those moments of pause have been some of the most fruitful moments, like when the pandemic really first hit and we had to pause, we had to reset, we had to consider. And sometimes, that's when you really have to be the ones who can be flexible, who can reconsider, who can address a real need, to not just go on as we always have. we've actually been busier than ever, after those moments. We've been more invigorated than ever to be able to do the things we're doing, to be able to work with more young people, to talk more passionately about the issues in our community, to be able to reach out further, to reach a more diverse audience, a broader audience, to talk about what are the real issues that we should be talking about in this community. Where can we learn? I think as we see with our, response in this country, not necessarily in, I guess, a political way, but just in general, our response to the pandemic, we should be learning from other people. We should be learning from other countries. We should be able to be humbled to recognize where we do have lack. And that goes for us every day in the work we do too. I think we're constantly humbled by the work that we do and, the ways we are able to push forward.
I'm Haley Taylor, and thanks for listening to this episode of the Rough Draft Diaries.